Hey there, sighted bestie. You know how I have in previous videos talked about the ways that I energetically see us as Midgardians being linked to Yggdrasil via the root system, right? Well, today I'm going to talk more about that, only instead of using roots, I'm going to be talking about spiders and webs. Particularly as a Norse pagan, talking about the ways that things such as white supremacy, racism, and the like can creep into Norse pagan spaces. And it's not going to be appreciated the way that I'm going to put it, but I'm not going to mince my words. The same way that you get abusers infiltrating most modern evangelical Christian spaces through coercion and enmeshment. Remember that enmeshment comes first. Most people can mask very well for a very limited amount of time. And in that time, they will usually set down roots wherever they want to be. And then by the time the mask drops, they're too deeply enmeshed to just be exorcised. You see it in the same way that abusive people will say a child, you can't tell anybody because then everybody's going to think you're bad. It's the same logic, but, a little more complex with adults. As we Midgardians are living our life down here, we make all kinds of webs. Some very intricate, beautiful, clean. Others get kind of tangled and messy and full of debris. What does one do in that situation? The short answer is that most people will usually go into a form of denial. But there's no getting past the fact that detangling yourself from such a messy bit of web, it's not exactly going to be easy, clean, or pretty. You see, that's the reason why, in my experience, I often recommend that people do a lot of healing around their childhood. Because a lot of these systems of oppression that we are in, the foundations were laid when we were children. A time frame in which our ability to have nuanced thinking is very hindered, mind you. If you want a modern analogy of what somebody looks like when they're trying to detangle themselves from nasty tangled webbing, you could also see it in a certain Tangerine Man's efforts to disengage himself from entanglements of his past. Which brings me to one of the most multifaceted lessons that I have ever learned. And that is the lesson of Tiwaz, or Tyr's story. In Tyr's story, he had to sacrifice his hand to Fenrir's jaws in order for Fenrir to be tricked into being bound. It's not really a story of who was right and who was wrong, because who was right and who was wrong is going to depend heavily on the perspective that you're observing the story through. It boils down to, what do you feel most strongly about? What are you willing to sacrifice everything to achieve? Because either way is going to be messy and unpleasant. But to truly align with your own sense of morality, you have to determine what perspectives you're willing to be the villain in. Because you will always be the villain in someone else's story. That's why I have come to learn that having a very strong sense, a strong knowing of self is the most important thing that you can do for your community. Know yourself very, very well and act accordingly. Also, as an aside, the more enmeshed you are in a cycle, the harder it is for you to see. Take what you need from this video, leave the rest. I'm pretty sure it's going to get almost no views.